They found my truck at the bottom of a ravine. 4 days later, they thought I was dead. My ex-wife's new husband thought I was dead. But when I walked out of those mountains alive, the look on his face told me everything. He knew, because he's the one who left me there. It started on a December morning, 12 degrees at dawn. I was at the north gate of my ranch, checking the latch like I'd done every morning for 40 years. The metal burned my bare palm. Wind howled through the pines. My old Ford diesel rumbled behind me, coffee steam rising from the thermos on the hood. Frost clung to my beard. The air smelled like pine sap and wood smoke drifting from the ranch house chimney. By 6:15, I was at the Cottonwood Cafe. The usual ranchers sat in the vinyl booths, hands wrapped around coffee mugs. Then Derek walked in with Linda, my ex-wife, his new wife. Derek's voice cut through the morning quiet. "Walt, at your age, alone on that ranch? Dangerous. You should sell while you can." The cafe went silent. Every head turned. Linda nodded along, wouldn't meet my eyes. Tom, my banker friend, shifted uncomfortably in the booth beside me. Derek stood there in his Timberland boots, city boots in ranch country, waiting for my answer. That afternoon, driving home on the mountain road, I smelled something. Cigarette smoke on the wind. Up here, in December. Strange. The morning started the way every morning had for 40 years. I pulled up to the north gate at dawn, engine ticking in the cold. The gate marks the boundary between my ranch and the national forest. My great-uncle staked this claim in 1892. There's still a surveyor's benchmark there, brass gone green with age, stamped with the year. I rest my hand on it sometimes. Connection to something older than all this trouble. I checked the latch, tested the hinges, looked over the fence line. The routine matters. A rancher who skips his morning check is a rancher who loses cattle. The wind cut through my jacket. I could hear the creek running under the ice. That hollow sound water makes when it's half frozen. That's when I noticed them. Survey stakes. Bright orange plastic, the kind developers use. 3 of them, running along my fence line. I figured it was the Forest Service. They survey the boundary every few years, make sure nobody's encroached. I walked back to my truck. The diesel was still warm. I poured coffee from my thermos into the dented steel cup I've had since the 70s. Black, no sugar. The steam rose into the frozen air. I could smell the good Folgers, the kind you scoop from a can. None of that fancy stuff. My phone buzzed. Hank Porter, my neighbor to the east. His voice came through, scratchy. "Saw headlights up your way last night, Walt. Late, maybe 11. You expecting company?" "No," I said. "Nobody." "Figured. Just seemed odd." Truck sat there by your gate for 20 minutes, then drove off. I looked at the orange stakes again. "Thanks for letting me know." After I hung up, I stood there a moment longer. The sun was starting to break over the ridge, turning the snow orange-pink. I could see my breath. The land stretched out around me, 2,400 acres of high valley. It belonged to my uncle. Now it belonged to me. Or would, once the paperwork cleared. I had an appointment with Tom at the bank, 9 o'clock. I drove into Clearwater Valley, population 1,847. Main Street runs 6 blocks. The bank sits in the middle, brick building from the 50s. Tom's been there 40 years. His office smells like old coffee and paper files. He was waiting for me with a folder open on his desk, reading glasses on a chain, red pen in his hand the way he always reviews ledgers. "Walt." He stood up, shook my hand. His grip was warm. "Congratulations." I sat down in the wooden chair across from him. "Thanks. Your uncle's estate cleared probate yesterday. The ranch is appraised at $11 million. Land values went up. Developers are buying everything they can get their hands on." Tom tapped the papers. "It's all yours. Just needs your signature." 11 million. The number didn't feel real. I'd worked that land my whole life for the cost of sweat and diesel. Now, some appraisers said it was worth more money than I'd see in 10 lifetimes. "There's one thing," Tom said. He poured coffee from his ancient pot, handed me a chipped mug. Montana law. "You know about ex-spouse inheritance rights?" I didn't. If you die without a will, your ex-wife can still inherit. You've been divorced, 3 years? 3 years? Well, technically, if there's no updated will and no children claiming the estate, an ex-spouse can petition. It's an old law. Doesn't get used much, but it's on the books. I sipped the coffee. It was bitter. "Linda married Derek." "Doesn't matter. You were married 35 years. That carries weight in probate court." Tom leaned back in his chair. It creaked. "You updated your will after the divorce, right?" The question sat there between us. Outside, I could hear a truck engine starting, someone scraping ice off their windshield, the sound of the metal scraper against glass. "I meant to," I said. Tom's face changed, just slightly. The way a friend's face changes when you've told them something they didn't want to hear. "You should do that, Walt, soon." I nodded, finished the coffee, signed the papers, shook his hand again, and walked out into the December cold. That's when I should have known. That's when the pieces were already moving. But a man who's worked land his whole life, doesn't think about legal loopholes and paperwork traps. He thinks about cattle and fences and whether the winter will be hard. I drove home. The mountain road was empty. The sun was high now, glinting off the snow. And somewhere up ahead, on the wind, I swear I smelled it again, cigarette smoke. The next morning, I stopped at the Cottonwood Cafe before heading back to the ranch. 6:15. The place smelled like bacon grease and fresh coffee. The ranchers were already there. Bill Tompkins at the corner booth, Hank at the counter, a few others I'd known my whole life. They nodded when I walked in. I took my usual seat by the window. The vinyl was cracked, patched with duct tape. The waitress, May, brought me coffee without asking. She'd been doing it for 20 years. Usual, Walt? Please. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, rattling the little bell above the frame. Derek walked in first. Tall, polished, wearing a heavy North Face jacket that probably cost more than my truck payment. Behind him came Linda, my ex-wife. She wore a designer coat I'd never seen before. Her hair was different. Shorter, styled. They took the booth across from me. Derek's voice carried. He always made sure it carried. "Morning, Walt." He smiled. White teeth. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Derek." He ordered coffee. Turned in his seat so everyone could hear him. "I heard the good news. Your uncle's estate. That's quite a windfall." I didn't answer. May brought my eggs and toast. Derek kept going. "You know, Walt, I've been thinking, man your age, alone on that ranch. It's dangerous. What if something happened? What if you fell, got hurt? Nobody would know for days." And the cafe was quieter now. People were listening. "I manage fine," I said. I'm sure you do. But let's be realistic. You're what, 68? That's a lot of land to maintain, a lot of responsibility. And these roads." He shook his head. "These mountain roads in winter, they're treacherous. Last week, a truck went off the edge up near Timber Pass. Driver didn't make it." Linda nodded. She was looking at her menu, not at me. But she nodded. Derek leaned forward. His cologne cut through the bacon smell. Too sweet, too strong. "What I'm saying is, you should sell while you can, while you're still capable of making that decision, before something happens." Tom set his coffee cup down hard. The sound echoed, but he didn't say anything. "My land's not for sale," I said. Derek smiled again. "Just think about it. My company is developing the valley. A resort, condos, bringing jobs to the area. Your ranch is the last piece we need. The final connection to the forest access road. We'd pay fair market value, more than fair. Not interested." "Well," Derek stood up, adjusted his jacket. "If you change your mind, or if anyone needs to make decisions for you down the line." He glanced at Linda. "We'll be ready to help." They left their coffee untouched. Linda followed him out. She didn't look back. The bell rang again. The door closed. The cafe stayed quiet for a moment. Then the conversation started up again, low and careful. I could feel them not looking at me. "That's worse than staring?" I finished my eggs, paid, drove home. The mountain road winds up from town, climbing through pine forest until you reach the high valley. Switchbacks every quarter mile. Guardrails in some places, sheer drops in others. I'd driven it 10,000 times. I knew every turn. The sun was bright on the snow. I had the window cracked, cold air coming in. That's when I smelled it. Cigarette smoke, not from my truck. From outside. Someone was up here. In December, in the cold, I pressed the brake pedal for the first curve. Nothing happened. I pressed again, harder. The pedal went to the floor, soft, no resistance. The curve was coming fast. I downshifted. The engine roared. But the truck was heavy, picking up speed on the grade. I yanked the emergency brake. It caught for a second, then snapped. The cable gave way. I saw the edge. No guardrail here. Just open air and pine trees 100 feet down. I cranked the wheel. The truck fishtailed. The back end swung wide. For a moment, I thought I had it. Then the front tire caught a rock, and the world tilted. The truck went over. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. I held onto the wheel. The airbag exploded in my face. I tasted blood. The truck hit something, bounced, hit again, then stopped, wedged between two pines. Everything went quiet except for the ticking of the engine. And my own breathing, fast and sharp. I could smell pine sap, gasoline, antifreeze. The chemical smell of the airbag. Then I heard it. An engine. Up on the road above me. Headlights cut through the trees. Someone was up there. I tried to yell. My voice came out wrong, weak. The headlights moved closer, then stopped. The engine idled for 10 seconds. 20, 30. Then it shifted into reverse. The lights pulled back. The engine sound faded. Someone had been watching. And they left me there. 4 days. I had to survive 4 days until someone found me. Or didn't. The first night, I didn't move. Couldn't. My ribs screamed every time I breathed. The truck was on its side, wedged between the pines. The windshield was gone. Snow blew in. The temperature dropped fast once the sun set. I could hear wind through the branches. My own breath, ragged and shallow. The creak of metal settling. Nothing else? No voices, no search party, nobody knew I was here. The camper shell on the truck bed had stayed intact. I managed to crawl into it. It took me 20 minutes. Every movement was fire in my chest, but the shell blocked the wind. That mattered. In December, at this elevation, wind kills you faster than cold. I had a wool blanket back there. Emergency supplies. A man who works high country keeps emergency supplies. I wrapped myself tight. The wool smelled like diesel and hay. I could taste blood in my mouth. My head throbbed. I stayed awake as long as I could. You fall asleep in shock, sometimes you don't wake up. But eventually my body gave out. When I opened my eyes, it was dawn. Gray light. I was alive. My fingers were numb. I flexed them. They moved. That was something. Day 2, I took inventory. Broken ribs, at least 2. Gash on my head, dried blood in my hair. Left ankle swollen, maybe sprained. But I could think. I could move. The truck battery was dead. I pulled it out anyway. Found steel wool in my toolbox. Touched the wool to the battery terminals. It sparked, caught fire. I fed it pine needles. Bark. Small branches I broke off the trees around me. The fire was tiny. But it was fire. I melted snow in an old coffee can. The water tasted like metal and pine. I drank it anyway. Your body needs water more than food. I knew that. Day 3, I heard a plane. Far off. I crawled out of the camper shell, waved my arms. But the plane kept going. They weren't looking for me yet. Maybe they thought I'd gone to visit my daughter. Maybe they thought I was holed up at the ranch, waiting out the storm. That's when I saw them. Boot prints. In the snow, near where my truck had been parked on the road above. I could see the edge from here, 50 yards up the slope. The prints led to the spot where my truck had gone over. Then they led back to tire tracks. Someone had stood there, walked to the edge, looked down, then left. I stared at those prints for a long time. The wind covered them slowly. By evening, they'd be gone. Day 4, I was weaker, hadn't eaten. The cold was settling into my bones. I kept the fire going, kept melting snow. But I could feel myself fading. The way a man fades when his body starts shutting down. Then I heard it. An engine, not a truck, smaller, an ATV. I grabbed the side mirror I'd broken off the truck, angled it to catch the sun, flashed it toward the sound. 3 times, 3 times, 3 times. The engine got louder. Walt, Hank's voice. Walt, you down there? Here, I tried to yell. It came out like a croak, but he heard. The ATV appeared at the edge. Hank looked down, saw the wreck, saw me. His face went pale. Jesus Christ. Hold on, I'm coming down. It took him 20 minutes to get to me. He brought a rope, a first aid kit, a thermos of hot coffee. When he wrapped the blanket around me, it was warm from his ATV storage. It smelled like machine oil and dirt. It was the best thing I'd ever smelled. 4 days, he said. We thought you'd gone to Sarah's place. When you didn't show up for the cattlemen's meeting yesterday, I started looking, and he helped me up the slope. Every step was agony, but I made it. At the top, I turned back, looked at my truck, crushed and broken in the ravine. Hank followed my gaze. That's a hell of a fall, Walt. You're lucky to be breathing. I pointed at the ground. The boot prints were almost gone, but you could still see the faint outline. Someone was here. Hank looked, then looked at me. After you went over? I heard an engine. They stopped, looked down, then left. His jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling Bill. Sheriff Bill Tompkins arrived 30 minutes later. By then I was sitting in Hank's truck, heater blasting, drinking coffee that burned my throat. Hank had wanted to take me straight to the hospital in town. I refused. Take me to your place, Fred, I said. No hospital. Walt, no hospital. Bill examined the scene, took photos of the faint boot prints, looked over the edge at my truck. When he came back, his face was serious. I'm going to have that truck pulled up, he said. Have Rusty look at the brake line. Black ice, I said. That's what it was. Bill met my eyes. Maybe, but let's make sure. I spent 3 days at Hank's place. His ranch house smells like wood smoke and old leather. His wife was gone 10 years back. He lives alone now. He made me soup, checked on me every few hours. Didn't ask questions. That's the kind of friend a man needs. On the 4th day, Tom called. His voice sounded wrong, tight. Walt, I need you to come to the bank, now. I'm not supposed to be moving around. I know, but you need to see this. Hank drove me into town. January cold had settled in, the kind that makes everything brittle. The truck heater rattled. I could smell the antifreeze, that sweet chemical smell that means the system's leaking. The road salt made everything dirty gray. Tom was waiting in his office. The door was closed. He had papers spread across his desk. His hands were shaking. Sit down, he said. I sat. The wooden chair creaked. Outside, I could hear the bank clock chiming. 10 in the morning. Tom slid a document across the desk, Legal size, official county seal at the top. Emergency petition for probate administration, it read. Filed in Clearwater County District Court. Derek filed this, Tom said. His voice was quiet. 3 days ago. I looked at the date. December 18th. That's 36 hours after my accident, I said. Yes. Before anyone even started looking for me. Yes. Tom's red pen was in his hand. He wasn't using it, just holding it. Walt, the search party didn't start until the 19th. You were officially listed as missing on the 20th, but Derek filed this petition on the 18th. I read the document. The words blurred together, legal language, but the meaning was clear. Derek was petitioning the court to declare me deceased or incompetent, to transfer the estate to Linda as surviving spouse under Montana law. How did he know to file? I asked. Tom didn't answer, didn't need to. I turned to the signature page. Linda's name was there. Linda Brennan Hastings, notarized, dated December 18th. She'd signed it, the same day Derek filed, before anyone knew if I was alive. There's more, Tom said. He slid another document across. Restraining order, filed yesterday. Derek claims you're mentally unstable due to head trauma, that you've been making threats, that you're dangerous. The paper smelled like fresh ink. The courthouse stamp was still bright. I've been at Hank's place for 3 days, I said. Haven't talked to anyone except you and Bill. I know. He's blocking me from my own land. Tom nodded. He poured coffee from his old pot. The sound of it filling the cup was too loud in the quiet office. He's also filed a competency petition. Hearing is scheduled for next month. He wants the court to appoint him as conservator of your estate. The room felt smaller. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I could taste something bitter in my mouth. Not coffee. Fear, maybe. Or rage. Can he do this? He's doing it. Tom's jaw was tight. He's got a lawyer, David Chen, best in the state. And he's got Linda's testimony that you've been unstable, paranoid, unable to manage your affairs. She wouldn't. Tom just looked at me. The expression on his face said everything. I left the bank. Walked down Main Street. The cold burned my lungs. Every breath hurt. My ribs were still broken. But I kept walking. The post office sits 3 blocks down. Small brick building. Flag out front. I pushed through the door. The bell rang. Linda was there, at the counter, mailing a package. She turned when she heard the bell. When she saw me, her face went pale. Not shocked, not relieved, just pale. Walt, she said. Her voice was flat. You signed the papers. She looked around. The postal clerk, Martha, was watching. An old woman by the bulletin board turned to listen. I don't know what you're talking about. December 18th, you signed Derek's probate petition, before anyone knew if I was alive. Linda's hand went to her purse. She clutched it. I thought you were gone. Derek said what? She didn't answer, looked at the door instead, like she was measuring the distance, calculating if she could make it. 35 years, I said. We were married 35 years, raised a daughter, and you signed papers to steal my land while I was dying in a ravine. You don't understand. Her voice was sharp now, defensive. You never understood. That ranch was a prison. 35 years of mud and manure and being stuck in the middle of nowhere. Derek offered me a life, a real life. By killing me? Nobody tried to kill you. But her eyes said something different. You had an accident. These things happen. You're old, Walt. You shouldn't be driving those roads alone. Everyone says so. The door opened. Sarah walked in. My daughter, 38 years old. She stopped when she saw us. The tension was a physical thing. You could feel it. Mom, Sarah said. Dad? What's going on? Linda grabbed her package, pushed past me. Ask your father. He's the one making a scene. She walked out. The bell rang again. The cold air rushed in. Sarah looked at me, then at Martha, then back at me. Dad, you should be resting. Hank said you were hurt bad. Your mother signed papers, I said, to give Derek my ranch, before anyone knew if I was alive. Sarah's face changed. That's not... She wouldn't... Tom has the documents, dated and notarized. My daughter stood there in the post office, her coat still buttoned, her face caught between the mother who raised her and the father who taught her right from wrong. I could see the moment it broke her, the moment she realized she had to choose. I need to talk to her, Sarah said quietly. You do that. I walked out. The cold hit me like a fist. Down the street, I could see Linda getting into Derek's Lexus, Derek behind the wheel. They drove past me. Neither of them looked over. But half the town had seen us in the post office. By nightfall, everyone would know. The whispers were already starting. I could feel them. In a small town, whispers are worse than shouts. That night, alone at Hank's place, I sat by the wood stove. I could hear the fire popping. Smell the pine smoke. Outside, the wind howled through the eaves. My phone rang. Sarah. Dad, she said. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. I asked Mom if she knew, if she signed those papers before they found you. I waited. She didn't answer me. She just looked away. Then she said I wouldn't understand. That you and her were over a long time ago. That Derek was trying to help. But, Dad... What? When I asked if she knew about the accident before it happened, she said, he told me it would be over quick. Then she stopped, like she realized what she'd said. The fire popped. Outside, it started to snow. Did you know? Sarah whispered. Did Mom know? I went back to the ranch on a January morning. Hank didn't want me to go, said I should stay another week. But a man can only accept so much help before he needs to stand on his own ground again. The drive up the mountain road was different now. Every curve, I remembered. The smell of pine, the sound of metal tearing, the headlights that came and then left. My ranch house sat at the end of a gravel drive, 2 miles off the main road. Log construction from the 40s. The porch sagged on one side. Wood smoke still rose from the chimney. Hank had kept the fire going while I was gone. Inside, everything was as I'd left it. Coffee cup in the sink. Ranch ledger open on the kitchen table. Handwritten entries going back 40 years. My handwriting, my father's before that, my uncle's before him. Ink and paper. The old way. I made coffee. The percolator sounded loud in the quiet house. I could smell the Folgers, familiar and good. Outside the window, snow covered everything. The sun was just starting to rise over the eastern ridge. At dawn, I put on my coat and drove to the north gate. The cold burned my lungs. My ribs ached with every breath. But I got out of the truck, walked to the gate, put my hand on the latch. The metal was freezing. It always was this time of year. The surveyor's benchmark was still there, brass gone green, 1892 stamped into it. My great-uncle's claim, 5 generations had stood on this ground. That's when I saw them. More survey stakes. Not 3 this time, 7. Running along my fence line, heading toward the forest access road. Bright orange plastic, each one tagged with a number. I pulled one up, looked at the tag. Hastings Development, LLC. Preliminary Boundary Survey. There was a date stamped at the bottom. December 9th. I stood there holding that stake. December 9th, 7 days before my accident. Before I'd even known about the inheritance. Before Derek had any legal claim to this land. He'd been surveying my property before he tried to kill me. I pulled up another stake. Same company. Same date. I walked the fence line, pulled up all 7. The plastic was cold and slick in my hands. I loaded them in my truck bed. Evidence. That's what Tom would call it. When I got back to the house, my phone was ringing. Tom. Can you come to my place tonight? He asked. Bill wants to talk. Hank too, we need to go over some things. What things? Just come. 7 o'clock. Tom lived in town, in a small house behind the bank. I got there just as the sun was setting. The sky was purple and orange. Beautiful. The kind of sky that makes you think spring might come eventually, even in January. Inside, Tom's living room smelled like old coffee and wood polish. Hank was already there. So was Sheriff Bill. They stood when I walked in. Sit down, Walt, Tom said. He gestured to the couch. You look like hell. Feel like it too. Bill had a folder with him. He opened it on the coffee table. Photos, reports, the kind of paperwork that meant he'd been working. Rusty examined your brake line, he said. Took him 4 days to get the truck out of the ravine. But he found something. He slid a photo across, close-up of the brake line. I could see the cut. Not a clean cut. Ragged, but deliberate. That's not wear and tear, Hank said. His voice was flat, angry. That's wire cutters. I've seen enough brake lines to know the difference. Bill nodded. Rusty agrees. Says someone cut it partway through. Enough that it would fail under pressure. Like on a mountain curve. The room was quiet. I could hear the clock ticking on Tom's mantle. The heater clicking on. There's more, Tom said. He pulled out his own papers. Bank records. I did some checking, quietly. Derek's company took out a life insurance policy 3 weeks ago. Not on himself. On local property owners. Specifically, property owners in the development zone. That's legal? I asked. If you have insurable interest, Derek claimed he had contracts pending, that the deaths would constitute a financial loss. Tom's jaw was tight. He took out a policy on you, Walt, and on Henry Morrison, and on the Caldwell family. All of you own land in his development zone. How much? Hank asked. $2 million, each. The number sat there. $2 million if I died. When did he file it? I asked. Tom looked at me. December 10th? December 9th, he surveyed my land. December 10th, he insured my life. December 16th, my brakes failed. Bill closed his folder. I can't arrest him on this. Not yet. I need more. The boot prints at the scene are mostly gone. The brake line is evidence, but without a witness, a good lawyer will call it circumstantial. The insurance policy is suspicious as hell, but not illegal. So what do we do? Hank asked. We build the case, Tom said. Carefully. We document everything, and we wait for him to make a mistake. I reached into my jacket, pulled out one of the orange survey stakes, set it on the coffee table. He already did. Tom picked it up, read the date, his eyes went wide. This is dated before your uncle's estate even cleared probate. 7 days before my accident, I said. He was measuring land he had no right to touch. Bill took the stake, photographed it. This is good. This shows premeditation, planning, but we still need more. We need to connect him directly to the brake line, or we need him to admit something. On record. He won't, Hank said. Men like Derek, Tom said slowly, they get cocky. They think they're smarter than everyone else. If we can make him nervous, make him think we're onto him, he might do something stupid. Bill looked at me. Are you willing to go public with this? Push him? Make him react? I thought about Linda's face in the post office. The papers she'd signed. The life insurance policy. The brake line cut just enough to fail. He tried to kill me, I said. Then he tried to steal my land while I was dying. Yeah, I'm willing. Outside, it started to snow again. The wind picked up. February was coming, the cruel month. But we had a plan now. And sometimes a plan is enough to keep a man warm. The competency hearing was set for March 12th. Derek's lawyer, David Chen, filed the petition in mid-February. It arrived by certified mail, thick envelope. Legal language that basically said I was too old, too damaged, too mentally unstable to manage my own affairs. The petition cited erratic behavior following severe head trauma. It mentioned paranoid delusions about deliberate harm. It requested emergency conservatorship with Derek Hastings appointed as temporary guardian of my estate. Linda had signed an affidavit. I read it 3 times. She said I'd always been unstable, that I'd shown signs of paranoia for years, that I'd become obsessed with conspiracy theories, that I couldn't be trusted with financial decisions. Sarah called me that night. Dad, I didn't know she was going to do this. I know. She's saying things, terrible things, that you're not yourself, that the accident damaged your brain, that someone needs to protect you from yourself. Her voice cracked. Dad, what if you just took the money, sold to Derek, moved into town? It's not worth dying for. I stood at my kitchen window. The sun was setting. February light, thin and cold. It's not about the money, Sarah. Then what's it about? My word, my name, proof that I'm still who I've always been. She was quiet for a long time. What if you lose? Then I lose. But I could hear it in her voice, the doubt. My own daughter, wondering if maybe Derek was right, if maybe I was too old, too broken, too much trouble. In town, the whispers got louder. I could feel them when I walked into the Cottonwood Cafe. The conversations that stopped when I entered, the eyes that wouldn't quite meet mine. Some people still nodded. Hank, Bill, a few of the older ranchers who remembered my father. But others, the newer people, the ones who'd moved here in the last 10 years, they looked at me like I was a problem. An old man standing in the way of progress. Derek was good at that, making progress sound reasonable, making me sound like a relic. He gave an interview to the Clearwater Valley Gazette. I read it at Tom's house, sitting at his kitchen table. The paper smelled like newsprint and coffee stains. We're trying to help, Derek was quoted saying. Walt Brennan is a proud man, but pride can be dangerous when it prevents someone from accepting the care they need. After his accident, it's clear he's not capable of managing a multi-million-dollar estate. We're seeking conservatorship for his own protection. He used that word 4 times in the interview. This is bad, Tom said. He poured coffee, but neither of us drank it. Half the town believes him. They see a concerned son-in-law trying to help. They don't see the insurance policy. They don't see the surveyed land. They don't see what we see. Can we use the survey stakes in court? Chen will argue Derek was doing preliminary research, that plenty of developers survey land before making offers, that it doesn't prove intent. Tom rubbed his face. He looked tired. We need more, Walt. We need something that connects him directly to the accident. February dragged on. The kind of cold that gets into your bones and stays there. Ice on the roads, snow that never melts. Gray skies that make you forget what blue looks like. I went to the gate every morning anyway. Checked the latch, stood by the benchmark, kept the routine, because a man who breaks his routine is a man who's already given up. On the 23rd, Sarah came to see me. But she brought someone with her, Katie Chen, the county clerk. Young woman, late 20s, nervous energy. She kept looking at the door like she expected someone to burst through. Katie has something to show you, Sarah said. But we have to be quick. If anyone finds out she copied these... Katie pulled papers from her bag. Her hands were shaking. I work at the county office. I see all the filings, property surveys, building permits, insurance claims. She spread the papers on my kitchen table. They smelled like photocopy toner, fresh. This is Derek's land survey, filed with the county on December 9th. I already knew that date. But look at this. She pulled out another document. Life insurance policy, filed with the State Insurance Board on December 10th. And this. Another paper. Loan application. Derek applied for a $2 million construction loan on December 8th. Tom leaned over the table. Construction loan? For what? The resort project. But here's the thing. Katie's finger traced down the page. The loan was contingent on Derek acquiring full property access. Specifically, he needed the north gate access to the forest road. Without it, the project doesn't work. The investors won't fund it? Sarah was staring at the papers. So he needed Dad's land. More than that, Katie said. She pulled out one more document. This is the loan agreement. Look at the deadline. If Derek doesn't deliver the land access by May 1st, he forfeits $2 million in earnest money. His company goes bankrupt. The investors can sue him personally. The room went quiet. I could hear the clock ticking, the wind outside, my own heartbeat. He's not doing this because he's greedy, Tom said slowly. He's doing this because he's drowning. Drowning. Katie nodded. I checked his accounts. County records are public if you know where to look. He's leveraged everything. His house, his company, his personal assets. If this project fails, he loses it all. And Linda? I asked. She doesn't know. I don't think she knows. Katie gathered the papers. I have to get these back. If anyone finds out I showed you... They won't, Sarah said. Thank you, Katie. After Katie left, Sarah turned to me. Her face had changed. The doubt was gone. Mom said Derek was successful, established, that he'd take care of her. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. She married a man who's broke, a man who's so desperate he'd kill for land access. She might not have known, I said. She knew enough. Sarah's jaw was tight, the way mine gets when I'm angry. She signed those papers before anyone even looked for you. Tom stood up, started pacing. This changes things. Derek's not a master criminal. He's a desperate man with everything on the line. That makes him more dangerous, not less. It also makes him stupid, I said. What do you mean? Desperate men make mistakes. Tom, when's the next town council meeting? Next week. Thursday. Derek's presenting his resort plans, trying to get approval for the zoning change. Oh, will there be a public comment period? Tom's eyes narrowed. Yes. Why? Because I'm going to be there, and I'm going to ask some questions. The first week of March, I sat alone in my ranch house and thought about giving up. February had been the cruel month, like I knew it would be. Too cold to work outside. Too quiet to distract yourself. Just you and the wind and the dark coming early every afternoon. My ribs still ached. The headaches came and went. Some mornings I'd wake up and forget where I was, forget what year it was. Then I'd remember. The crash, the papers, Linda's signature. I made coffee but didn't drink it. Let it go cold in the cup. The ranch ledger sat open on the table, but I couldn't focus on the numbers. Outside, rain mixed with snow. Not quite winter anymore, not yet spring, just gray. The competency hearing was 9 days away. Derek's lawyer had sent another letter. More affidavits. More people saying I was unstable, paranoid, a danger to myself. Some of them I didn't even know. Business owners in town. People who'd never spoken to me. But they'd signed papers saying I wasn't fit to manage my own affairs. Derek had gotten to them somehow. Money, probably. Or promises of what the resort would bring. Jobs, tourism, progress. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just an old man who couldn't let go. I walked to the window. The rain ran down the glass. I could see my reflection. 68 years old, face like tan leather. Scar on my temple from the crash. Eyes that looked tired, too tired. The phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But it was Sarah. Dad, you there? I'm here. You sound strange. I'm fine. Silence on the line. Then, I'm coming over. Sarah, you don't need to, I'm already in the truck. She arrived 20 minutes later, walked in without knocking, took one look at me, sitting at the table. The cold coffee, the rain outside. She pulled out a chair, sat down across from me. You're thinking about quitting, she said. I'm thinking about being realistic. That's not what you taught me. I looked at her. My daughter. She had my jaw, her mother's eyes, but her spine was her own. When I wanted to quit college, she said, you drove 6 hours to see me. You didn't yell, you didn't lecture, you just sat with me, and you said, some things are worth finishing. even when they hurt, even when you're not sure you can. Because quitting teaches you to quit, and finishing teaches you to finish. That was different. How? You were young, you had your whole life ahead. And you're old, so you should just roll over? Her voice was sharp, angry. Dad, Derek tried to kill you. Mom helped him. They're trying to take everything you've worked for, everything Grandpa worked for, 5 generations of our family, and you're going to let them win because you're tired? I'm more than tired, Sarah. I know. Her voice softened. I know you are, but you're also still you. You survived 4 days in December wilderness. You built that fire with a car battery and steel wool. You walked out of that ravine. Derek's story is that you're incompetent, but everything you've done proves you're not. Don't prove him right by giving up now. I stared at the cold coffee, the rain on the window. Her words hung in the air. What if I lose in court? I asked. Then we appeal, and if we lose the appeal, then we fought. And fighting matters, Dad. Even when you lose, especially when you lose. Because at least you didn't lie down. She reached across the table, took my hand. Hers was warm. Mine was cold. I choose you, she said. Not Mom, not Derek, you. You. And I'm going to stand beside you in that courtroom. And if they take the ranch, we'll figure out what's next together. But we're not quitting. Not now. Something in my chest loosened. The weight I'd been carrying, it didn't disappear, but it shifted. All right, I said. All right. All right. We fight. She smiled, squeezed my hand. Good. Because Tom called. He wants everyone at his place tonight. 7 o'clock. Says it's important. By 7, we were all there. Tom's living room, me, Sarah, Hank, Sheriff Bill. Katie had slipped in through the back door, nervous as a cat. The heater rattled. Rain drummed on the tin roof. That sound, rain on tin, it meant the freeze was breaking. Spring was coming, even if you couldn't see it yet. Bill spread new photos on the coffee table. Spring thaws starting early this year. Last 2 days, we had runoff from the higher elevations. Things that were buried in snow are showing up. He slid a photo toward me, close-up of something small and white. Cylindrical. Cigarette butts, Bill said. Found at your north gate. 17 of them, frozen in the ice since December, preserved. I leaned closer. You could see the filter, the ash, even the brand marking. They were under the snow when I checked the scene in December, Bill continued. But the thaw exposed them. I collected them yesterday, sent them to the state lab for DNA. How long for results? Tom asked. Rush order, maybe a week, maybe less if we're lucky. Bill looked at me. Walt, if Derek's DNA matches these butts, we have physical evidence placing him at the scene, before your accident. He'll say he was just checking the property, Sarah said. Like the survey. Maybe, but 17 cigarette butts? That's not a quick visit, that's waiting, watching. Bill pulled out another photo. And there's this, boot print, partially melted but still visible in the mud. I made a cast back in December, Bill said, but the print was mostly obscured by snow. Now, with the thaw, I can see it clearly. Timberland boot, size 11, distinctive tread pattern. The kind of expensive hiking boot someone from the city would wear in the mountains. Hank laughed, a short, hard sound. Derek wears Timberlands. I've seen them. So do a lot of people, Bill said. But if I can get a warrant to examine Derek's boots, and if the tread matches, and if his DNA is on those cigarette butts? He let the sentence hang. You've got him, Tom finished. Katie pulled papers from her bag. I have something else. I shouldn't have this. If anyone finds out, they won't, Sarah said firmly. Katie spread the papers on the table. Phone records. Highlighted entries. Derek made 17 calls to Linda in the week before the accident. Some of them were 40 minutes long. One was an hour. That's not normal for a married couple who lives together. Planning calls, Tom said quietly. There's one more thing. Katie's hands were shaking. The town council meeting on Thursday. Derek's presenting his resort plan. He needs council approval for the zoning variance. But the agenda also includes public comment. Anyone can speak for 3 minutes. Bill looked at me. You going to speak? I'm going to ask questions, I said. About survey dates, about insurance policies, about why a man would survey land he doesn't own a week before the owner has a fatal accident. He'll have answers prepared, Tom warned. Let him answer, in front of the whole town, on record. I looked at each of them. We've been building this case quietly. Now we go public. We make Derek nervous. We make him react. Dangerous, Hank said. Cornered animals bite. Good. Let him bite where everyone can see. Bill closed his folder. The DNA results should be back by Friday. Day after the meeting. If Derek panics at the meeting, does something stupid, says something incriminating, he looked at Katie. You recording the meetings? Always. County requirement. Video and audio. Then we set the trap. Bill's face was hard. Sheriff's face. The face of a man who'd seen bad things and decided to stop them. Walt asks his questions Thursday night. Makes Derek sweat. We watch his reaction. And on Friday, when the DNA comes back, if it matches, we arrest him, I said. We arrest him. Tom refilled everyone's coffee. The pot was old. The coffee was bitter. But it was warm. Outside, the rain kept falling. Not snow anymore, just rain. The thaw had started. And with the thaw, things that had been hidden were coming to light. One more thing, Bill said. He pulled a plastic evidence bag from his jacket. Inside was a broken cable. Your emergency brake cable. Rusty kept it. He showed me something I missed the first time. He held the bag up to the light. I could see the cable inside. Frayed ends, but not just frayed, cut. It didn't snap from age, Bill said. Someone cut it, not all the way through, just enough that under pressure it would fail, same as the brake line. They wanted it to look like an accident. But they weren't quite good enough. The room was quiet except for the rain. We all stared at that cable. Proof, real proof. Thursday night, I said, when we make him show his hand. The Clearwater Valley Town Hall smells like old wood and floor wax. Thursday night, the place was packed. Every seat taken, people standing along the walls. The whole town had turned out. Some came for Derek's resort presentation. Some came because they'd heard rumors. Small towns run on rumors. I sat in the back row, Hank on my left, Sarah on my right. Tom was near the front, briefcase on his lap. Sheriff Bill stood by the side door, arms crossed. Katie sat at her desk by the recording equipment, the little red light showing everything was being captured. The council sat at the long table, up front. 5 members, local business owners, people I'd known for years. They looked uncomfortable. Word had gotten around that something was going to happen tonight. Derek walked in at 7 sharp. He wore a suit, expensive, navy blue, probably cost more than my truck. Linda was with him. She wore a dress I'd never seen. They took seats in the front row. Derek's lawyer, David Chen, sat beside them. Black leather briefcase, gold watch, catching the fluorescent light. The meeting started with routine business, budget reports, road maintenance. Derek kept checking his phone. Linda kept her hands folded in her lap. She hadn't looked back at Sarah once. Then it was Derek's turn. He stood, walked to the podium, smiled at the council, pressed a button, and a screen lit up behind him. Glossy renderings, a resort, glass and timber. Expensive cars in the parking lot, people in ski clothes. Clearwater Valley Resort and Spa, Derek said. His voice was smooth, practiced. A 4-season destination that will bring 200 jobs to this community. $15 million in annual revenue. A future for our children that doesn't require them to leave home to find opportunity. As the renderings changed, swimming pool, restaurant, conference center, it looked beautiful. I'll give him that. The project requires a zoning variance for the forest access road, Derek continued, and cooperation from local landowners. We've secured most of the necessary properties. We're in final negotiations for the last parcel. He meant my land. He didn't say my name. Didn't have to. Everyone knew. This is progress, Derek said. This is what Clearwater Valley needs. Jobs, growth, a future. He looked at the council. I'm asking for your approval tonight. The investors are waiting. The timeline is tight, but together we can transform this valley. He sat down. The council members nodded. A few people in the crowd clapped. The council chair, Bob Henderson, cleared his throat. Thank you, Mr. Hastings. Very impressive. Now we'll open for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak has 3 minutes. I stood up. The room shifted. Heads turned. Derek saw me. His smile froze. I walked down the center aisle. My boots were loud on the wood floor. I could feel everyone watching. When I got to the podium, I turned to face the crowd. My name is Walt Brennan, I said. Some of you know me. Some of you think you do. Derek was leaning toward his lawyer, whispering. Chen was shaking his head. I have a few questions, what I said, about this development, about timelines, about how things connect. I pulled papers from my jacket. Hastings, you surveyed my land on December 9th. Is that correct? Derek stood up. I surveyed several properties as part of preliminary research. December 9th, I repeated. 1 week before my uncle's estate cleared probate. 1 week before I legally owned that land. How did you know to survey it? That's standard practice. And on December 10th, you filed a life insurance policy, $2 million, payable if I died. Is that correct? The room went quiet. You could hear the heater kicking on. Someone's phone buzzing. That's a legal business practice, Chen started to say. On December 16th, my truck went off the mountain road. Brake line cut, emergency brake cable cut. Someone wanted it to look like an accident. I looked at Derek. On December 18th, 36 hours after my accident, before anyone even started searching for me, you filed an emergency probate petition. How did you know to file before they found my body? Derek's face had gone pale. I was trying to help. Help who? I asked. Tom stood up, walked to the podium, opened his briefcase. I have the documents. Survey dated December 9th, insurance policy dated December 10th, loan application showing Derek's company is $2 million in debt to investors. Deadline for land acquisition, May 1st. If he doesn't deliver, he forfeits everything. This is ridiculous, Derek said. There's more. Sheriff Bill moved from the wall. He held up an evidence bag. 17 cigarette butts, found at Walt's North Gate. The gate he checks every morning. These were buried in snow. Preserved in ice since December. Spring thaw exposed them. We sent them to the state lab. Bill pulled out a paper. DNA results came back this afternoon. Derek Hastings' DNA on all 17 cigarette butts. You were at that gate, before the accident, waiting. Derek started toward the door. Chin grabbed his arm. Boot prints, Bill continued. He held up another photo. Timberland boots, size 11, distinctive tread, matches the prints at the crash scene. He looked at Derek. Matches the boots you're wearing right now. I want to leave, Derek said. His voice was high, panicked. You can't hold me here. One more thing. Katie stood up from her desk. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Land survey filed with the county, building permit applications all dated before Mr. Brennan's accident, before he legally owned the land, before he could consent to any of this. Derek pushed Chen aside, started for the door, but Hank was standing there, blocking it. Big man, ranch hard. Derek stopped. Let me out. Public meeting, Hank said. You stay till it's done. Linda was still sitting. Her face was white. She was staring at Derek, at the evidence, at all of it coming apart. Mrs. Hastings, I said. I looked at her. Linda, did you know? She didn't answer, just sat there. When you signed the probate papers on December 18th, did you know I might still be alive? Her voice broke. I thought you were gone. He told me. What did he tell you? Tears started down her face, mascara running. He said it would be quick, that you'd just drift off the road, that it would look like black ice, that no one would know, that we'd be free. Her voice got louder, hysterical. He said you'd never feel it. He promised. He promised it would be fast, and you wouldn't suffer, and we could finally... She stopped, realized what she'd said. The whole room had heard it. Linda, shut up, Derek hissed. He made me practice, she sobbed. Practice what to say when they found you, how to cry, how to act. But then you didn't die. You came back, and I didn't know what to do. Sarah was standing now, staring at her mother. You knew, before it happened, you knew. I didn't think he'd really... I thought he was just talking. Linda covered her face with her hands. Oh, God. Oh, God. What did we do? Sheriff Bill walked down the aisle. He had handcuffs in his hand. Derek Hastings, you're under arrest for attempted murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit fraud, and insurance fraud. Derek tried to run, shoved past Chen, but Bill was faster. He grabbed Derek's arm, twisted it behind his back. The handcuffs clicked. You can't prove anything, Derek said, but his voice was shaking. It's all circumstantial. Your DNA, your boot prints, your wife's confession, on video, on record. Bill looked at Katie. She nodded, holding up the recording device. I can prove all of it. He pulled Derek toward the door. Derek was shouting now, about lawyers, about rights, about how this was all a mistake. Linda just sat there, crying. Sarah looked at her mother, then looked away, walked to stand beside me instead. The town hall was silent except for the sound of Derek being let out. The door closed. Then everyone started talking at once. Bob Henderson banged his gavel. Meeting adjourned, but nobody moved. They all just sat there, watching me. The old man who'd survived, who'd fought, who'd won. Outside, I could hear the rain, softer now, warmer, spring rain, the kind that melts the last of the ice and makes the ground ready for new things to grow. Derek spent that night in the county jail. Linda was charged as an accessory the next morning. Bill said she'd cooperated, gave a full statement, confirmed everything, the planning, the conversations, the timeline. She said Derek had convinced her I was in the way, that the ranch was wasted on me, that I'd be better off gone. Better off dead, she meant. She just couldn't say the words. The Clearwater Valley Gazette ran the story on Friday. Front page, local developer arrested in murder for hire plot. By Saturday, it had made the regional papers. By Sunday, it was on the news in Helena. Derek's investors pulled out, filed a lawsuit for the $2 million in earnest money. His company declared bankruptcy on Monday. The Lexus was repossessed on Tuesday. The glass and timber house went into foreclosure by the end of the week. Linda moved out. Nobody knew where she went. Sarah tried to call her mother twice. Both times, Linda didn't answer. On the third day, Linda sent a text. Just 3 words. I'm so sorry. Sarah showed it to me. We were sitting at my kitchen table, coffee getting cold, April rain on the windows, the warm kind. The kind that smells like earth waking up. Are you going to answer her? I asked. Sarah stared at her phone. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, not yet. She set the phone down, looked at me. Dad, she knew. She helped him plan it. How do I forgive that? Maybe you don't. Not now. Maybe not ever. That's your choice to make. What would you do? I thought about it. 35 years of marriage. A daughter raised together. A life that had meant something once, even if it ended badly. I'd leave the door open, I said. Not wide, just cracked, in case someday she becomes someone who deserves to walk through it. But I wouldn't wait by the door. I'd go live my life. Sarah nodded, wiped her eyes. Okay. The competency hearing was canceled. Derek's lawyer withdrew all petitions. The restraining order was lifted. The probate case was dismissed. The ranch was legally mine. $11 million worth of High Valley land that I'd never sell. Tom helped me update my will. Proper this time. Everything to Sarah. And if something happened to her kids, the land would stay in the family, the way it should. By mid-April, the snow was gone. The meadows turned green. I could hear the creek running full, that sound of snowmelt rushing over rocks. The cattle moved to the summer pasture. The first calf was born on a Tuesday morning, healthy, strong. Hank came over to help with the spring branding. So did Bill. Tom showed up in his good boots, rolled up his sleeves, worked like he was 20 years younger. Word got around. By noon, there were 15 people at my ranch. Old friends, neighbors, even a few I didn't know well. They came to help, to be part of something good after all the bad. We built the branding fire in the south pasture. The smoke rose straight up in the still air. It smelled like burning wood and hot iron and honest work. The cattle lowed. Someone's dog barked. Sarah's kids ran through the grass, laughing. May from the cafe brought sandwiches. Hank's sister brought potato salad. We ate sitting on tailgates and hay bales. The sun was warm, really warm. First time all year. You did good, Walt, Hank said. He was drinking a Coke, leaning against his truck, standing up to that son of a bitch. A lot of men would have folded. Had help. Yeah, but you had to choose to accept it. That takes something too. Bill came over, still in his sheriff's uniform. Derek's arraignment is next week. Chen's trying to negotiate a plea. 20 years, probably. Maybe 15, if he gives up everyone else involved. And Linda? Depends on how much she cooperates. Could be 5 years. Could be 10. He looked at me. You okay with that? I thought about it. Linda in prison. The woman I'd been married to for 35 years. The mother of my daughter. I'm okay with the truth, I said. Whatever comes from that is just what comes. The next morning I went to the north gate at dawn. Like always, like I had for 40 years. The sun was coming up over the eastern ridge. The sky was pink and orange. No clouds. The air smelled like pine and wet earth and new grass. I could hear a meadowlark singing. First one I'd heard all year. That sound means spring more than anything else. I put my hand on the gate latch. The metal was cold, but not freezing. Not winter cold, just morning cold. The surveyor's benchmark was still there. Brass gone green, 1892, my great-uncle's claim. 5 generations had stood here. Would be more after me. I checked the hinges, oiled them yesterday. They moved smooth and quiet now. Fixed the latch last week, tightened the wire. The gate would last another 40 years if someone took care of it. Behind me, I heard a truck engine. Sarah's truck. She pulled up, got out, brought 2 cups of coffee, handed me one. Thought you might want company, she said. We stood there together, father and daughter, looking out over the land, the valley spreading below us, the mountains in the distance, the forest behind us, all of it still here, still ours. You going to keep doing this? She asked. Coming here every morning? Long as I can. Good. She sipped her coffee. When you can't, I will. A promise, a passing down, the way it's supposed to work. We finished our coffee. I closed the gate. We drove back to the ranch house together. There was work to do, fences to check, hay to move, the ordinary work of keeping land alive. But it felt different now, lighter, like something heavy had been lifted. Not forgotten, just set down. The ranch wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. It was continuing. And that was enough. They ask me sometimes if I'm angry. People in town, friends, even Sarah, they want to know if I hate Derek, if I hate Linda. If I wake up at night thinking about what they tried to do, I tell them the truth. I don't think about them much at all anymore. I think about other things. The way the meadowlarks sound in the morning, the smell of coffee at dawn, the feel of the gate latch under my hand, cold metal warming as the sun comes up, the way Sarah's kids run through the pasture, the same way she did 30 years ago. They say money changes people. I don't believe that. Money just turns up the light, shows you what was already there, hiding in the shadows. Derek was always desperate. Linda was always looking for something I couldn't give her. The 11 million. Just made it bright enough to see. The land taught me something I should have known all along. You don't own land. Not really. You tend it. You hold it in trust for whoever comes next. My great-uncle knew that in 1892. My father knew it. I know it now. And Sarah will know it when it's her turn. Some nights I sit on the porch and listen to the creek running. It's full now. Spring runoff. The sound is different than winter. Louder. More alive. The first green shoots came up in the south pasture last week. The cattle know. They're already moving that direction, looking for the fresh grass. My ranch ledger sits on the kitchen table, open to this year's page. Handwritten entries. Dates and expenses and notes about the weather. My handwriting is shakier than it used to be, but it's there. Continuing. That matters more than I can say. Yesterday I oiled the gate hinges. Sarah helped. Her youngest boy, 7 years old, wanted to know why we do it. Because the gate has to work, I told him. Every day, rain or shine, winter or summer, so you take care of it. Forever? He asked. Long as you're able, then someone else takes over. He nodded. Serious little face. I could do it. I believe you could. This morning I went to the north gate at dawn, the usual ritual. The sun was just breaking over the ridge, turning everything gold. The air was warm, really warm. The smell of it, earth and pine and new grass, that's the smell of things beginning again. I put my hand on the surveyor's benchmark. The brass was cool. 1892, 133 years, 5 generations. Soon to be 6. Some things don't change. Shouldn't change. A man's word, a day's work. Land held in trust. Coffee at dawn, the sound of the gate closing, secure and right. I climbed back in my truck, started the engine, drove back to the house where smoke was rising from the chimney, and my daughter's truck was already in the drive. The ranch wasn't mine, I was its, and that was enough. That was everything. Spring had come.